Welcome into Redacted, everyone. I'm Clayton Morris.
I'm Natali Morris.
And on this show, we question everything, and we only are basically just seeking the truth. That's all we want to do here on this show. So good to see all of you on this Thursday. We are watching and waiting with bated breath as what is happening and unfolding right now in Israel. Will Iran attack this afternoon, within hours? Military experts expect this to happen any moment now that Ramadan has wrapped up. Are we going to be sucked into a massive Middle Eastern war? Will the United States be used as sitting ducks? All eyes on what's about to happen with Israel and Iran tonight.
Plus, we have a new Boeing whistleblower. Let's all make sure this guy stays safe. I feel like we need to create a buffer around him after what happened to the last Boeing whistleblower. He was found not alive. So let's look out for this guy. And it's going to terrify us what he had to say to the New York Times, but we're going to take a look anyway.
Yeah, and it may actually be even worse than the guy that wound up dead and with a bullet to his head. So this is really, really startling information on Boeing. We're going to talk about that. Plus, Trudeau's carbon tax in Canada is in effect and went into the new version of the carbon tax went into effect on April 1st, raising rates 23%. And Canadians are fed up with it. Thousands of protesters taking to the streets demanding a change. And I just got an email earlier today from a Canadian viewer that says, please, we cannot wait for election to come soon enough in Canada. So we're going to talk about all of that. Plus, what does it mean to be a woman these days?
That's what the Australian court system is actually considering right now with a landmark case. It hasn't had much press, but it's something we've been following for a while. We're going to tell you what's at stake for the question of what is a woman. All of that on your Redacted today, this Thursday. So pop your knuckles. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let us know where you're joining us from live today on this Thursday. Good to see everyone here. It's going to be a crazy day, and we're still digging out from all of the FISA craziness yesterday. Really interesting to see what Edward Snowden had to say about that, because it's not over. Like this fight to make sure that Americans aren't spied upon by the government. Yeah, you're not free.
Not
yet. Tucker Carlson did a great piece last night. I encourage you all to go check that out, where he says, this is going to come back. This is just a like sort of a procedural speed bump that's preventing the FISA warrant, the FISA process from going forward. But this is going to come back. And you already saw actually Fox News out with a big opinion piece that we need to bring back FISA. We need to make sure that this is extended. And then immediately you had a number of individuals show up on, like Mike Pompeo was a guest on Fox News, jumped on there to like promote FISA on television. Like they're really pushing it on the mainstream media. And a lot of the news anchors on Fox were pushing it as well.
I have to say, I don't understand the party lines on this. Why do so many Republicans want it? And why are we treating the ones that don't as brave? This should be a nonpartisan issue.
But if you go back to the neoconservative movement, you go back to Dick Cheney, you go back to those guys that were pushing for the Patriot Act so vehemently under the Bush administration. I mean, the people that line up in favor of this spying on Americans goes back to the neocons. It goes back to the Patriot Act.
Democrats are blowing my mind, though, because they want to spy on you on social media. They want to censor you on social media. But in terms of like FISA, that's where they draw the line. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it really
why
doesn't.
This is so partisan. It should be all of us say no spying on Americans without a warrant. You got to get a warrant. That's our system.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, we're going to talk about what's going on in Iran. This is going to be could be a crazy weekend, and we're all just sort of waiting with bated breath for this massive response that's about to happen in Israel. Iran is going to attack Israel, make no mistake about it, and they're planning on that. So we'll get there in just a moment. But first, we're also watching these inflation numbers. I mean, over the past 24 hours, we've got these new CPI numbers showing that inflation is hotter than they wanted to admit. And now it's a matter of, okay, wait a minute. The Fed was going to cut a lot of interest rates, right? The Fed was going to cut interest rates. They told us 3 times this year. That's what Fed Chair Jerome Powell told us like 2 weeks ago. But now, wait a second. Is that going to put a whole screeching halt to those plans? The economy is not as favorable as the Biden administration would have you believe. Gold prices absolutely going through the roof. New price targets for gold over $3,000 an ounce. It was just at $1,900 an ounce. Now it's at $2,300 an ounce. And countries around the world right now are buying up as much gold as they can get their hands on right now. Silver as well, half of its all-time high. So again, really important right now for you to protect your family And if you've got money in US dollars, I would absolutely be very careful about that. In the US stock market, the same. And that's why our friends over at Lear Capital can help you get set up right now. Buying gold, you can have it shipped right to your house, stored in your gun safe. You can get gold coins. You can get you can get silver coins, silver bars, sent right to your house. And they're fantastic. They're a patriotic company. Thousands of 5-star reviews in the United States. And you can just call them, just have a conversation with them to see if buying gold and silver, precious metals is right for you. Get on the phone with them, call their 800 number. They'd love to talk to Redacted viewers. They're fantastic. 1-800-613-3557. Get your free gold guide from them. They've got a $3,200 gold guide, which is a price target, and it's a really interesting deep dive. I encourage you all to read it. It's totally free. You can even just go to learredacted.com to pick up that gold guide. And if you actually buy precious metals with them, you can receive up to $15,000 in free bonus metals with a qualified purchase. So check out our friends at Lear Capital. They're fantastic supporters of our show. Go to learredacted.com or call their 800 number, 1-800-613-3557. Again, learredacted.com. Are we barreling towards war with Iran? Overnight, just after midnight, the Iranian defense minister canceled all flights over Tehran, announced the cessation of flights, both internationally and domestic. According to reports, the Revolutionary Guard of Iran, they've canceled all leave, saying that they're in, quote, a state of war. There are emergency meetings, of course, being held in Israel, and the United States military officials flying to Israel right now to prepare for what the Biden administration believes will be an imminent attack. And the United States Fifth Fleet in the Persian Gulf has been brought to 100% combat readiness over the past few hours. What is going on? Let's ask former U.S. Marine, former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter, and welcome to the show. Scott, of course, George W. Bush, going back many decades, calling Iran one of the axis of evil. The Israeli government has wanted the United States, it seems, to agitate to be involved in a war with Iran for many decades. Benjamin Netanyahu said it in front of Congress that Libya, Iraq, and Iran were, of course, a major problem. Are we heading towards war with Iran? What is your assessment of this?
Well, we could be. I mean, Israel, let's put this in perspective. Israel launched a unprovoked act of aggression against sovereign Iranian territory when it attacked the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria. And the Iranians had long told the Israelis that an attack against Iranian territory by Israel would prompt an attack by Iran against Israel. So there's going to be a retaliation. This is 100% certain. The question is, will this retaliation then escalate to general war? We know the United States doesn't want to fight a general war with Iran. The reason why the Obama administration signed off on the Iran nuclear deal in 2015 is that the only option we had, if we didn't capitulate on our terms regarding Iran's nuclear program, was a war that we could not win. Every president since Obama has recognized that we cannot win a war against Iran. Donald Trump learned that lesson when he was talking about carrying out retaliatory actions on Iranian soil. He was told by the Pentagon that the escalation that would occur after such a strike would lead to a general war that would see American resources in the Middle East destroyed and America unable to respond effectively for many months. And even then, victory could not be assured. So I think the United States right now is telling Israel, we will not be a part of your war with Iran. You started this. You need to pay the price. Iran will retaliate. And I believe the United States will then put pressure on Israel to limit what they do next. If Israel wants a general war with Iran, the danger is such. Israel will lose. Israel knows it will lose because Israel has wargamed this the past 2 years together with the United States, and it doesn't turn out well for Israel, which means Israel could be facing existential crisis, which means the Samson option kicks in, which means Israel will use nuclear weapons. And that's the danger we're in right now. Israel got themselves involved in something that could escalate to where Israel faces the real threat of physical destruction and therefore will use nuclear weapons. And the United States is scared to death about this.
I mean, I just got chills. I mean, it's absolutely terrifying because my biggest concern, yes, is nuclear war. but is also Americans that are in these bases all throughout the region right now. And basically sitting guinea pigs, like sitting ducks, waiting for this to happen. And the Biden administration has acknowledged this. I mean, months ago, we know the Biden administration said it's only a matter of time before Americans are attacked in the region again. So the Biden administration is fully aware that this is going to happen. And I've been saying here on the show, like, maybe this is me being naive, but get them the hell out of there. If we're not going to be involved in a war, then bring them home. Get them the hell out of there. I mean, is the Biden administration allowing these members of the military there as sitting ducks right now?
Well, it's not just the Biden administration. These military members have been there for successive presidential administrations. But under Donald Trump and now under Joe Biden, it's clear these forces have no meaningful purpose. There's no real mission. The countering ISIS mission has long been over. The presence in Syria is about harassing Bashar al-Assad. The presence in Iraq is about harassing Iran. Neither one of these further legitimate American national security objectives. And so, yes, we are sitting ducks. The good news is Iran is not going to start out by striking American forces, because Iran doesn't want a war with the United States either. The bad news is if Israel retaliates against Iran, then American forces will be struck. The Fifth Fleet can go on 100% alert, but it'll be 100% destroyed. People only need to reflect on the accuracy of the Iranian missiles fired at the Al-Assad Air Base in 2020 in retaliation for the assassination of Qasem Soleimani to know that the Iranians had the capacity to hit any target they want to, and those weren't even the best missiles Iran has. And there's nothing in the Israeli arsenal or the American arsenal that can shoot these missiles down. So Israel is a sitting duck. The United States is a sitting duck. And Israel needs to be careful. There's a lot of talk right now in the Netanyahu government that if Iran strikes Israel, that Israel will strike Iranian nuclear targets in an effort to finish this chapter. First of all, the Iranian nuclear targets are dug in, well protected. Israel will not destroy them. But you know what's not well protected? Dimona. And if Israel strikes Iranian nuclear targets, it's a 100% guarantee that Dimona will be destroyed. And that could lead to a nuclear catastrophe in its own right. Dimona being the home of Israel's nuclear weapons program, the breeder reactor that produces the fissile material for Israel's nuclear weapons.
Then there's the straightforward approach. The United States is there, get us out of there so we don't get attacked. Hopefully American forces are not attacked. But what if there is a false flag, right? I mean, there's certainly a long history of this happening, going Gulf of Tonkin. Well, we could use USS Liberty, remember the Maine. So we have U.S. forces there. This is what I worry about in this new world. I mean, call me a cynical bastard, but I mean, we have American forces there. It could be very easily claimed quickly through the U.S. media and the parrot media that this attack on a U.S. warship came from Iran. And there's no amount of investigation that's going to happen to prove that that's the case. And then we are sucked into a war. We've seen this repeatedly. Are you worried about any kind of major false flag attacks happening against U.S. forces?
I think false flag attacks happen when people aren't serious about going to war. Iran's going to bomb the hell out of Israel very soon. I mean, I don't mean to smile about that. I'm just saying this is inevitable. You don't need a false flag. It's going to happen.
But I mean, U.S. being involved in it, being in the middle of
Israel,
it.
Israel will be so overwhelmed about getting the snot kicked out of it by Iran and coming up with a retaliation against Iran that there's no time for the complexities of false flag. I'm not worried about a false flag here. I'm worried about the real deal. I'm worried about Iran banging Israel, Israel banging Iran, and then Iran banging everybody. And that's the threat to me. There's not going to be a USS Liberty scenario here. That happens when nobody wants to get involved. Iran is getting ready to pound Israel. Israel's preparing to pound Iran, and America's stuck in the middle.
So this is an inevitability. I mean, it seems that this is an inevitability at this point, and everyone seems to know that this is about to happen. What do you think is going to happen ultimately, based on military strategy? What do you think is going to happen inside of Israel and the Persian Gulf and the Red Sea?
I think the Iranians will launch a strike that will be punishing, but not overwhelming. It'll be a signal to Israel and to the world that that there's not carte blanche to strike Iran, that Iran is a red line. And they need to establish this now, because a weak response from Iran just opens the door for further attacks. So there will be a very strong Iranian response. But I do believe that the Iranians want to have a safety valve, meaning that the strong response will not be so overwhelming that even the United States can't tell Israel, don't retaliate. I think the United States is going to go there and tell the Israelis, you started this. This is your mess. We're not going to save you on this one. So don't do anything stupid in retaliation. You kick the hornet's nest, you're going to get stung, but don't expect us to burn down the neighborhood as a result. The question now is, how serious is Joe Biden about putting pressure on Israel? Because in order to stop an Israeli response, it's going to take a lot of pressure. Look, I lived through the last time Israel was attacked by a foreign power during the Gulf War. I know firsthand, the passions that existed in Israel as they were receiving Iraqi Scud hits over and over and over again over multiple weeks, and the demands that were put in place to retaliate, and what it took for the United States to prevent that retaliation. And what it took is the United States to promise overwhelming military force against Iraq to prevent further attacks. The United States isn't going to be bombing Iran on behalf of Israel. So now we lack that tool. We lack the ability to say, don't worry, we've got this. Now we're going to tell Israel, don't retaliate. We're not going to do anything. That's a completely different diplomatic problem. And it can only have muscle if Joe Biden says, not only will we abandon you on Iran, we'll abandon you altogether. We'll pull the plug on everything. You will never get another bomb, another fighter aircraft, nothing. We are walking away from you because you are a suicide pill that's going to take us all down. And I don't know if the Biden administration has the ability to do that, not in an election year. So I'm afraid that this thing could very well spiral out of control because the United States will not take the decisive action up front necessary to forestall an Israeli overreaction, retaliation. We should have stopped them from striking Syria. We never did. We've turned a blind eye to them bombing Syria, now it got out of control. We should have stopped them from going into Gaza. We never did, because we are unable to meaningfully stand up to Israel until it's too late. And I'm afraid right now it's too late.
Is there anything in this situation that's a benefit to the United States of America?
No, this is what we're doing is reaping the product of decades of just dysfunctional Middle East policy. We've allowed ourselves to be maneuvered into this position by others through weakness, through inattention, through just bad advice. We have bad policymakers. We have people who continue to believe that the United States is a global singularity and doesn't understand that we are very much a diminished power, that we lack the capacity to back up with any meaningful military power projection the policies that we're seeking to implement in the region. And now we're going to pay the price.
Yeah, I still struggle. I try every day to see how any of this is a benefit to the United States. When I see people arguing that we need to send more money, send more weapons, send our entire Fifth Fleet to the Persian Gulf, keep men and women in military uniforms standing there right now as guinea pigs ready to be attacked. I fail to see how this is a benefit to us in any way, shape, or form. I'll get you out of here on this, Scott. What do you think a timeline is for this? We keep flights canceled. Iranian Guard leave is now canceled. They are on the highest alert, saying war is imminent. What do you think in terms of days, weeks? What is your assessment of this?
I imagine right now that the telephones are ringing, not in Tehran, but in the underground bunkers in Mashhad and elsewhere, because the Iranian government has been displaced. They're on war footing. But the phones are ringing off the hook with Chinese and Russian diplomats calling in, trying to talk Iran down from this struggle, because this war isn't going to benefit anyone. It'll be very disruptive to China, very disruptive to Russia. And Iran will take those phone calls, and they will listen and they will consider. Um, but I don't know if it's too little, too late to do this, unless the Chinese and the Russians can talk the Iranians down. I think we're looking at a war within 24 hours. You can't pull people off leave, go on alert, and then just sit there like this. The Iranians have been preparing for this. They've had Ramadan. I said early on, I was like, Iran's going to strike immediately. I said, no, they're not. It's Ramadan. They're not going to strike during Ramadan. They're going to wait till after Eid. Eid was yesterday. But just because they didn't strike doesn't mean they weren't preparing. All of their missile forces were moving into place. Everybody's ready. It's like the Super Bowl, preparing for the Super Bowl. You don't get your team up and then say, oh, let's push the Super Bowl off a week. You just screwed your team's preparation up. You got them ready for the game. The game has to happen. Iran is ready for the game right now. I don't see them allowing this thing to drag on indefinitely. Either there's a dramatic diplomatic intervention that can lower this thing down, or I think Iran strikes within 24 hours.
Jesus. Here we go. Scott Ritter, as always, great to see you. Thank you so much for this.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, absolutely terrifying, of course, that this is about to happen. We know this is about to happen. It's unfolding right before our eyes with the end of Ramadan. So
pray, you guys.
Yeah, pray, everyone. Because,
pray for peace.
And how many Americans could get sucked into this mess? And the United States does not need to be in the Middle East.
Civilians,
at all.
Really. People, humans, right? I mean, you can continue to break it down by groups that you are tribalistically connected to, but pray for
human beings right now. Yeah. All right. Well, we've got more news to get to here on your Thursday. We are going to look at Trudeau's carbon tax in a little bit. Plus, we're going to look at Boeing. A new whistleblower's come forward. We hope that this Boeing whistleblower doesn't wind up like the last one who was shot and killed inside of a car in a parking lot. Mysteriously dies just as he's giving testimony about what he's uncovered at Boeing. Really interesting. This one, though, could be even far worse. And we're going to detail that in just moments. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at Nom Nom, because it should be no secret to you that dogs like real food. One of the dogs in our house especially loves to clean up the eggs when they're dropped. That's his favorite, is the raw eggs. Well, then seek out real food for your dog with Nom Nom. Nom Nom delivers freshly made dog food personalized to your dog's preferences and unique calorie needs. And it doesn't look like processed food because it's not. It's actually real food delivered to your house. That's why Nom Nom's nutrient-packed recipes are developed by board-certified veterinary nutritionist, freshly made and shipped to your door, and made with 100% premium ingredients, which means 0% freaky fillers or funky stuff. Nom Nom has already delivered over 40 million meals to good dogs like yours. So whether it's Chewy.com or PetSmart stores or delivered straight to your door, Nom Nom provides your dog's favorite recipes whenever, wherever, and however you want. So say goodbye to boring processed dog food and give your dog a reason to run to their bowl with every meal every day. So right now you can get 50% off your no-risk 2-week trial by going to trynom.com/redacted. Again, that's 50% off at trynom.com/redacted. Okay. Well, we have a new Boeing whistleblower, so let's all look out to make sure that this guy stays safe. I feel like we should wrap around him like you hug a tree.
Yeah, please protect this guy.
Let's just all circle about this guy and keep him alive. The whistleblower's name is Sam Salahpour. He told the New York Times that he went to the FAA to make a report because of concerns about the 787 Dreamliner line of Boeing planes. He said they could break apart because the pieces are made from different manufacturers and they're not exactly the same shape where they fit together. So basically it's like IKEA furniture. It's supposed to fit, but sometimes it kind of doesn't line up and they force it along anyway. And when people say, hey, that's kind of not good, it should fit better, they're told, shut up. Keep making the plane. He said he did bring these concerns to his bosses at Boeing, but he was retaliated against. Boeing denies that. They say that they encourage workers to speak up and that when issues arise, retaliation is, quote, strictly prohibited. So let's take a look at his report in just a second. But before we do that, let's remind ourselves what happened to the last Boeing whistleblower named John Barnett. He, again, was found not alive in his car in a parking lot when he was actually in the process of testifying in court about the problems at Boeing. So imagine you're this guy. You've been trying to get attention to what you think is dangerous because you don't want innocent people to die. You're finally getting the attention that you've been seeking out, and then you decide to just pass away. Okay. Even mainstream media reported that he warned a friend he would not be committing suicide anytime soon.
I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way.
First tonight, our investigative reporter Ann Emerson has new information in the death of Boeing whistleblower John Barnett. A close family friend of Barnett says he predicted he might wind up dead, that a story could surface that he killed himself. But he told her, don't believe it. Ann?
Tessa, Barnett's family friend Jennifer said they had talked about this exact scenario playing out, but his words seemed like a premonition. He told her, don't ever believe it.
I knew John because his mom and my mom are best friends. And so over the years, get-togethers, birthdays, celebrations, and, whatnot, we've all got together and talked, and, that's how we really know each other.
And when Jennifer needed help one day, Barnett came by to see her. They talked about his upcoming depositions in Charleston. Jennifer knew he filed an extremely damaging complaint against Boeing. He says the aerospace giant retaliated against him when he blew the whistle on unsafe practices. For more than 30 years, Barnett was a quality manager. He'd recently retired and moved back to look after his mom in Louisiana.
He wasn't concerned about safety because I asked him, I said, aren't you scared? And he said, and his voice and the way he would talk, no, I ain't scared. He said, but if anything happens to me, it's not suicide. I know that he did not commit suicide. There's no way. He loved life too much. He loved his family too much. He loved his brothers too much to put them through what they're going through right now.
And he basically told you not to believe it.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Not true. He's got too much to do, likes breathing.
He liked breathing.
He liked living. I'm not going to commit suicide.
Yes. So, okay, let's all make sure that Sam Salapur, our new whistleblower, keeps breathing too, because he said this to the FAA and he told the New York Times about it. He says that there's problems with the sections of the fuselage. That's basically the tube that you fly in. It's the body of the plane, saying that they are improperly fastened together and could break apart mid-flight after thousands of trips because of the continued pressure. He said, and they did check his resume. It does seem like he did work at Boeing, and he has testified and sent documents to the FAA. And he says because the fuselage comes in several pieces from different manufacturers, they don't all fit the same. It would be like, again, ordering pieces of furniture from different places and then just seeing what you can do, right? Boeing concedes that those manufacturing changes were made, that they did, in fact, order the pieces from different manufacturers. But they say, this is Paul Lewis, a spokesperson from Boeing, said there's no impact on durability for the long or safe longevity of the airframe. Now, Boeing also acknowledged all of this. They said that they are fully confident in the 787 Dreamliners and that these claims about the structural integrity of the 787 are inaccurate and do not represent the comprehensive work Boeing has done to ensure the quality and long-term safety of the aircraft. Now, Salapur...
Sorry, but real quick, if I could just chime in. I think when like news story after news story after news story of pieces falling off your plane mid-flight, I think you lose the ability to argue that, no, everything's fine.
Yeah.
Right.
There's no credibility there.
We got it, they say. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, earlier this week, we had another flight where you have like pieces of the wing breaking off and they have to have an emergency landing.
Right.
So, I mean, week after week, day after day, we keep seeing these reports.
Well, they should have to prove it at this point. Yeah, go ahead, David.
I was curiously looking to see if the Clintons had any stake in Boeing just because of this stuff. And this is kind of interesting. Vanguard and BlackRock and State Street are the top shareholders. And then I looked up, well, who are the top shareholders in State Street? Well, it's Vanguard and BlackRock. So it's funny how, Vanguard and BlackRock are involved in all of this stuff. And if we follow the money, I'm sure we will find why these people, these whistleblowers are, like if they don't want this stuff getting out. And I just can't, I'm going to find the connection to the Clintons somehow.
Okay.
And Epstein Island in there too.
He thinks all nefarious roads lead to the Clintons. Okay, you do that and you let us know.
Honestly, that's a good place to start. Like when you start with that. It's
right.
It's Occam's razor, isn't it?
Okay, so here's more specifically what Salapur said about the pieces that don't fit. He said when they find these unwanted gaps in the assembly, then they sort of force them together. Like they use, he says, excessive force being applied to narrow the gaps. Like, well, crap, these pieces don't fit, so let's just force it. That is exactly, I keep coming back to this because that's exactly why you don't let Natali assemble IKEA furniture. Because if it doesn't fit, I'm just going to fub it. That's what I'm going to do.
This part is backwards.
But no one has to fly in my wobbly bookshelves, right? And so that shouldn't be happening. I mean, fine.
This piece doesn't go there. Let me just shove it in there anyway.
I'm just gonna push. Yeah.
But we all, I think we can all admit, we all have a bookshelf somewhere, or some, except Philip. We all have some sort of a TV cabinet or a bookshelf somewhere that has one panel that's backwards. That has like the hole sticking on the outside.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm not undoing that.
I'm going to push that.
I'm going to leave that.
That was 17 steps ago. I'm not going back.
Yeah.
I'm not reopening the fall rockin', whatever it's called, the fall yawn, fall raven.
Okay, I'm going to say, when I do it, it's a victimless crime, right? Maybe the books are less stable. When Boeing does it, no, that's not a victimless crime. Okay. And furthermore, this all comports with Al Jazeera reports. We showed you this just a few weeks ago. A reporter from Al Jazeera went into a Boeing plant with a hidden camera in South Carolina and asked Dreamliner assembly workers if they would fly on the very planes that they were manufacturing. And here's what they had to say.
This is a Boeing factory in the U.S. state of South Carolina. Workers here in Charleston are assembling the company's flagship product, the 787 Dreamliner. But this footage reveals some have little faith in the plane they build.
Did you fly on one? No. You won't fly on one.
Okay, when they asked for explanations, here are the explanations that these workers gave.
I wouldn't fly one of these planes because I see the quality going down around here.
An employee captured the footage after contacting Al Jazeera to tell us he had serious concerns about what he was seeing. At his request, we changed his voice.
With all the problems reported on the 787, there's 90% that's getting swept away. Hushed up. It's an iceberg.
Okay, this all tracks with what John Barnett and Sam Salapur said, that when they make reports about this, it gets swept under the rug. Salapur claims that he did report these issues and he was retaliated against. That's what his lawyer also says. Boeing also says that they've been doing tests on the Dreamliner, though, just to make sure after all of these bad reports. And so how many planes are at risk here? What are we talking about? Like your next flight, possibly? Well, I did a little bit of digging, and according to a Forbes article last year, they say Boeing sold over 1,600 Dreamliners. Wikipedia puts that number at 1,900. So let's say it's around 2,000 of these planes in the air at any given time, although some of them have been retired. So there are three models, the 787, 8, 9, and 10. According to an industry blog, Simple Flying, the airlines that have the most of them are Nippon Airways, British Airways, United, and Air Canada. So we're going to get more about this next week because this whistleblower, Salapur, will testify to Congress in a hearing held by Richard Blumenthal. He's a Democrat of Connecticut and chairman of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee's Investigations Subcommittee. That's a mouthful. So I have no doubt that will terrify all of us, but we're going to watch it anyway.
Keep him safe
let
until
us know
then.
what you think.
Yeah. When is the hearing?
The 17th.
The 17th.
Of April.
Okay. So keep this guy safe until then.
Yes.
And don't go near any Boeing parking lots.
Right.
Stay away from Boeing people.
Surely they can't get away with Epsteining a second witness. Like at that point, like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
you say that
at that point. How do you be like, well, this is odd. What a strange thing. Our witnesses keep dying.
Obviously, you're not a golfer.
Well, how many people have now died around you go back to Clinton's, right? How many people have mysteriously died around the Clintons? Like, you say one? No, isn't it like 30? Right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many now have mysteriously passed away?
Right. I don't know. That guy needs a live stream. He just needs to live stream his life until the hearing and then for the foreseeable future. And let's all just keep an eye on him.
Put him in a padded box to protect him.
Right.
All right. We've got more news to get to here on your Thursday. We're going to look at Trudeau's carbon tax and why Canadians are revolting against it. Thousands of Canadians coming out and what is it about? Is it really about preventing climate change, or is it really about controlling Canadians? Is it the World Economic Forum's perfect dream here? We're going to talk about all of that. Plus, we'll also talk about what is a woman. A major court case is attempting to answer that question in Australia. So what is a woman? You let us know in the comments. But first, we want to tell you about our friends over at the Wellness Company, because if you are looking to protect your family right now, I mean, we are in troubled times. And, we saw certainly during COVID, the difficulty in getting things that could protect your family. And it's amazing to me that more people aren't prepared with this stuff. And they're sort of shocked that when, we have another lockdown or closes down, you can't go to pharmacies, you can't get access to this information and these items. And then you wish you could have gotten something a little bit earlier and prepared. I know that the liberal media likes to make fun of people and calling them preppers, but we should all be prepping and making sure our families are protected with food and also with certain medicines. Medical emergency kit from our friends over at the Wellness Company. They have their contagion kit, and I want you to know what's in it. So they've got, among the things that you can find inside of it are ivermectin. You can also making sure that you have hydrochloroquine in there. These are drugs that will last for years in your house. And all of this, of course, vindicates what Dr. Peter McCullough, who pioneered the McCullough Protocol, said about all of this. Despite it being canceled, despite having his reputation dragged through the mud, this was one of the most important things that you had at your disposal during the COVID crisis. So, in fact, on March 21st, the court ruled that the FDA must now delete every social media post that addressed the use of ivermectin for treatment of prevention of COVID-19. And it's been determined that the FDA lied in their demonizing of it and other effective drugs over the last 4 years. That is now out of the courts and proven. So, right now, we have you covered. If you want to get access to this kit right now in your house, go to twc.health/redacted and grab your contagion emergency kit right now. Just keep it on hand, and you're going to get 10% off the price at checkout. Keep it on hand in your house, as just like having a fire extinguisher in your home to protect your family right now. That's twc.health, not .com. It's twc.health/redacted. Use the code redacted to save you $30 at checkout. Only available in the United States. Again, that's twc.health/redacted. Well, Canadians are revolting. Thousands of protesters taking to the streets to say down with the massive new carbon tax that are crushing Canadians. On April 1st, Justin Trudeau hiked the carbon tax by a new 23%. It now accounts for about 20 cents for every liter of fuel purchased when you go to the gas station. And it's also applied at a rate of about $15 per ton to all home heating as well. So it's not just for filling up your car, it's for the home heating as well. Canadians are rightfully pissed about it. So is Trudeau trying to silence these protesters through police intimidation? Let's ask Canadian journalist David Creighton, who just wrote a new piece, which you can see here at humanevents.com, on the carbon tax and Trudeau's clampdowns on these freedoms. David, good to see you. Welcome back to the show.
Nice to be back, Clayton. These are very, very desperate times for Canadians because this carbon tax went up just about a week ago to another 23%, escalating. And that's not the end of it. People sometimes think, oh, is Trudeau finished? Is he done yet? No, it's going to continue to go up. And right now, it's, as you said, 20 cents a liter of gas. People in Vancouver, for instance, are spending over $2 a liter for gas. And that is the equivalent of over $10 a gallon, a US gallon, and about $10 the old imperial gallon. So that's a lot of money for gas. And it's cutting into home heating, of course, and it will affect summer air conditioning, of course, if people can afford such a luxury in Canada anymore. I was out at the carbon tax protest here in Ottawa. The police were relatively mild, certainly compared to how they behaved when Trudeau invoked the Emergencies Act in 2022. The police, and at that time we had about 5 different police forces in Ottawa, and they converged and they came down heavy on the trucker Freedom Convoy protest. They were relatively nice at the protest I was at, I think perhaps because we had so many media there, but they weren't very nice across Canada. And as some of the video demonstrates, here are cops coming out in full riot gear, looking actually like they're going to war. They're in some cases, flak jackets, combat fatigues, trying to intimidate people who are simply peacefully protesting a tax that is cutting into their livelihoods, that is making it difficult just to drive a car to work. And I think this illustrates how desperate Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is to silence all opposition. And by the way, 7 out of 10 provinces now are saying, stop the tax, axe the tax, spike the hike. Those are the talking points. But Trudeau is not listening. And over 70% of Canadians are now opposed to the carbon tax. And Trudeau keeps saying, oh, you're getting a rebate in the mail. You're getting a rebate in the mail. And 8 out of 10 Canadians are getting more back than they are putting out. It's a lie. And the Parliamentary Budget Office has stated that emphatically. This is an objective, nonpartisan part of Parliament saying, no, the carbon tax is costing Canadians a lot more than they're getting back in this so-called rebate. And Trudeau ignores the facts. All of his cabinet ignores the facts. They keep talking from a script that says this is good for the environment and the rebate's good for Canadians. And of course, it's not doing anything at all for the environment because it's not cutting greenhouse gas emissions in Canada. We are actually increasing our level of greenhouse gas emissions since the carbon tax came into effect. And as I always like to say, even if Canadians stopped living, if they moved into caves, if they stopped driving cars, it would not affect the global greenhouse gas emissions, the global carbon footprint at all, because Canada produces about 1% of those emissions. So it's really a farce.
Well, the whole thing is a farce, of course, and there's zero evidence that humans have anything to do with rising temperatures. In fact, the Earth is now cooling. We have that data, of course. So this whole thing is a farce. This whole thing is a scam. And so the Trudeau government, what is their position on this? The idea is we're going to raise taxes. We're going to target and raise taxes on carbon in order to move you towards electric vehicles, towards an electric infrastructure. Is that the reasoning here, that we'll make it so burdensome for you to use a gas guzzling vehicle that you'll want to use one of these electric vehicles? You'll want to shift to that new green initiative.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Yes. And the Trudeau's environment and climate change minister, who used to be a Greenpeace renegade, was actually arrested for trying to scale the CN Tower in a stunt, a Greenpeace stunt. He's actually done electric car commercials for the government, telling everybody, buy your electric car. Sales of electric cars, much as they have in the US and elsewhere, have plummeted because people aren't in any way confident that they're going to be able to get a replacement battery, or they're not confident they can keep these things on the road without stopping their washing machines or their dryers or their dishwashers, because they can't do both. So the idea that this is somehow going to save people money to buy an electric vehicle is, of course, totally totally false. And I think most Canadians know that now. But Trudeau continues to invest in this concept that we have a green future, that somehow windmills and solar panels and electric cars that nobody wants to buy are going to replace the fossil fuel equipped energy that we have today. And of course, I don't think very many people are buying into this concept anymore, because we've seen how ineffective electric vehicles can be in the sub-zero climate here in the winter. And we've seen that this is just not a viable alternative. And it's got everything to do with population control, not with any sort of environmental remediation. It's got everything to do with forcing people not to drive. And as I've said, our greenhouse gas emissions, whether you believe it or not that these have anything to do with climate change, they've actually gone up since the carbon tax, because people still have to go to work. People still have to heat their homes. And the alternatives are simply not there. Justin Trudeau knows that. His cabinet knows that. But he wants to force this on Canadians because it's a means of controlling the way we live and our behavior.
And doing that through intimidation, whether it's through the police or through government, and the threat of, the threat of retribution. So these protests relatively peaceful, but how are Canadians done with the protests now? They've come out, they've protested, they said, we don't want this carbon tax. Are they going home and they're just going to go about their business? Or do you think these are about to get much larger?
I think they're going to continue, and they could get much larger. Initially, most people thought this would be a one-day event on April 1st. And once again, April Fool's Day, we got the increase in the carbon tax, but they have continued, and the intimidation has continued. And the opposition from the premiers in this country, from the premiers of provinces, has increased. As people have said, we cannot sustain this much longer. And the number of Canadians opposing it seems to be increasing. So this has become a political problem for Justin Trudeau. And he said, I don't care if I'm popular anymore. He's come out and said, I have to do this because it's the right thing for the environment. It's the right thing for Canada. But of course, that's ominous, because if Justin Trudeau doesn't care if he's popular anymore, will he use the so-called climate crisis, which I think is a completely non-event, will he use this as a justification to cling to power, to postpone indefinitely perhaps the next election? Will he use this as he used the COVID-19 pandemic as an excuse to take away civil liberties, as an excuse to clamp down on freedom of speech? I have no doubt he will, because that's what Justin Trudeau is made of. And he is increasingly in a position of the walls closing in. Today, he's appearing before the Foreign Interference Commission, which is looking into how China interfered in at least two elections, 2019, 2021, but after which, or through which, the Liberal Party benefited, because we know the Chinese targeted MPs, targeted ridings in the Greater Toronto area that went Liberal. So it's highly conceivable Justin Trudeau has remained Prime Minister because of Chinese interference. He's facing that commission today. He has not done well in the past when he's testifying before official inquiries. The walls are closing in on Justin Trudeau. He is a desperate politician, but he's the sort of desperate politician who does very dangerous things when he feels he's endangered.
Well, and I think you're right, definitely about the plan for this, which is to get people from traveling, get people from using their cars, keep people home, intimidating them through this bullying. And that's exactly what you're seeing with these green initiatives and so forth. And it's going to be interesting to see what Justin Trudeau does with these emergency powers, which we know that he likes very much as well up there in Canada. David Creighton, always great to see you. Thank you so much for this. We'll be watching this very closely and what Canadians have to say about this carbon tax. If you're Canadian, let us know in the comments below, where do you stand on this? David, great to see you.
Thank you so much, Clayton.
All right, thanks so much, David. And as we were talking last night here on the show, we are going to be rolling out our T-shirts soon for our Canadian viewers and anyone around the world who wants to get them.
Oh, did you see the fan art We got fan art. Somebody actually did a sketch of the Tin Man with a Canadian maple leaf and a heart.
Oh, yeah, and the oil.
It's fantastic. I want to say thank you for it. It was amazing.
So if you don't know what we're talking about, last night we talked about on the show how it was a private member's bill in Canada, which put forth the idea of jailing you for up to 2 years in Canada if you came out and said that something nice about the oil and gas industry. If you posted social media posts about saying something nice about it, then you could be locked up for 2 years. Again, this is a private member's bill in Canada, but we said we're going to roll out some T-shirts saying how much we love oil and gas.
That prompted us to want to do it. So we're working on that, and you'll see that coming up in the Redacted store.
It's the exact opposite, of course, of this carbon scam that they're running up there in Canada. So thanks to David for that. All right, we've got more news to get to. We're going to talk about this "What is a Woman" story in a moment. But first,
we want to tell you about our friends over at Hillsdale College. Now, if you are like me, all the research or the reading that you do about, this show or other news that you get, you think, wow, I wish I just was more informed about this, that, or the other. Let's say the fall of the Roman Empire, the war in Vietnam. What is it? Well, you can seek out books one by one, or you can consider maybe going to an online course at Hillsdale College, because Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses in the most important and enduring subjects. You can learn about the works of C.S. Lewis, stories in the book of Genesis, the meaning of the U.S. Constitution, the rise and fall of the Roman Republic, or the ancient history of the Christian church. All of these are online and available for free. That's right, for free. And we recommend that you check it out. Right now, a most pertinent course to take might be American Citizenship and Its Decline with Victor Davis Hanson. This is an 8-lecture course, and he explains the history of citizenship in the West and the threats that it faces today. That's something we talk about all the time here on this show. It never hurts to be more educated and hear other professors talking about that. So again, check it out. See if this is something you can fit into your yearly goals to just be the most informed global citizen you possibly can be. You can go at your own pace, start whenever. Much better, I'm going to say, than scrolling through reels on your phone. Use your time wisely. So right now, check it out. Go to hillsdale.edu/redacted to start. It's free, easy to get started. Again, hillsdale.edu/redacted. We thank them so much for sponsoring our show. So thank them as well. Go to hillsdale.edu/redacted.
Yeah, and let us know where you're joining us from. How many of you have taken one of their courses? The citizenship one is really, really well done. And again, totally free. So just check them out, and some great courses on there for you to dive into, especially, right now, this time where we're so disillusioned about the world, like some C.S. Lewis books. I mean, check out the C.S. Lewis course and other things like that as well. But the history of World War II, we've been talking about that. Another great course you can take for free on there. So anyway, let us know where you're joining us from tonight around the world. Great to see all of you guys on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Thank you guys for joining us.
All right. Well, a major case in Australia will decide what a woman is. More specifically, they will decide if this person is a woman. This is a biological man who goes by the name of Roxanne Tickle and insists that by looking at this person, you should know that they are a woman. In this post from the Facebook page that Roxanne Tickle puts forward.
Roxanne Tickle.
Yes, it's so feminine.
I thought you said pickle. I was like, that's...
No. They're going through the feminization of themselves. In that first picture I showed you, they said, I've done all the electrolysis of my
when
beard.
You say they, how many?
Just Roxanne Tickle said that.
Okay. Roxanne Tickle said...
Is a man who said this, that because of, you can see all the electrolysis, that the beard that would naturally grow on that face is not growing back. I know the pronoun issue is sensitive. I am trying to refer to this person as a biological man, but I want to make sure that I don't get punished on YouTube. That's why I'm doing that. I'm not trying to promote any ideology. I'm not going to use the preferred pronouns of Roxanne Tickle because that person is not a part of my group. I am a she. That person is not, but I'm not going to refer to the pronouns that they are so that I don't get punished on YouTube, not because I subscribe to the ideology. Are we clear? I just don't want to get in trouble for it. I don't agree with it. That's what I'm doing. Don't give me shit for it. Okay, so here's the case now that is in federal court. Transgender woman Roxanne Tickle seeks $200,000 in damages in the first federal court case based on gender discrimination. The reason this is happening is because Tickle did all that work for transition, all the surgeries, all of that stuff, and then tried to create an account on Giggle, which is a women-only social network in Australia. They were so excited, Roxanne Tickle was, to go out and play woman, and then they got their account suspended because Roxanne Tickle is not a woman. And so he decided to sue. What Roxanne Tickle wants is $200,000 in damages for distress and hurt after sending email after email. My account's closed. What happened? I'm a woman. I should have access to this women-only space. So not only am I going to send an email if I'm Roxanne Tickle, I'm going to find the CEO and call her repeatedly and harass her and send 8 emails until I get my way and get back on this social network. In fact, the CEO, Sal Grover, this is her, says that she felt like she was being stalked by this person and she didn't like it. Here's what her lawyer says. Miss Grover saw a man and felt harassed and intimidated by this person. Oh, this person's profile, I perceive a man, and so I'm not going to answer the phone because this is very intimidating. Roxanne Tickle's lawyer says that's nonsense because obviously Roxanne Tickle is a woman, and if they're really a woman, you don't even have the right to be threatened. Here's what their barrister or lawyer says, that Sal Grover would have answered those emails and calls if Roxanne Tickle was a woman from birth. The lawyer says it's clear Miss Tickle is a woman because she had gender affirmation surgery. She presents to the world as a woman. She's recognized as a woman at her workplace, socially, and in her sports. It's not an easy thing.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of athlete? Like, she doesn't look very athletic. Just saying. Just throwing it out there. Does not look
bowling.
I don't know.
in mini golf.
Sure, I don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go up against Roxanne Tickle in any kind of combat sport. I'd be a little bit afraid. Let's go back to this quote saying it's not easy. It's not an easy thing. This is the lawyer of Roxanne Tickle. It's not an easy thing to find yourself feeling that your gender is woman when you've been born a male. No, because you're not. That's why that's not easy, because it's a lie. So now, if you're a woman, you cannot be threatened. You can't say, I feel threatened by this man because that man says they're not a man. That's what this case is. That's why it's such a big deal, right? So if you knew that it was a woman, you'd have answered those emails, and you should have known it was a woman, girl. And so that's your bad. Sal Grover, the CEO of Tickle, is having none of this.
The CEO of Tickle?
Giggle. Sorry. It's the cutesy names I'm getting.
Tickle and Giggle.
Right.
All right.
Well, that's what's trending is Tickle versus Giggle, like hashtag. You can follow it yourself. So anyway, this real woman, Sal Grover, she's having none of this. This is her lawyer, Brittany Nolan. And I want to read you the argument she made in court this week about how her client has the right and instinct of a woman to feel threatened by a man. And that's what she's asserting here, is that I can feel threatened by a man and say I'm feeling threatened by a man. And I don't have to pretend that the person that's threatening me is a woman, and this is my right. She said in court, this is a transcription, what is a woman if thinking one is a woman means one is a woman? A woman is not a thought. She says that both sexes can shop on both sides of the aisle. In our society, she says, I'm going to skip a little bit, and you should pause this screen and read it for yourself because it's beautiful. She says, when a woman who is biologically born, and always so, whether she has had her reproductive organs removed or not, whether she thinks she's a male or not, when she walks through a dark park in the middle of the night, she doesn't stop and think, I wonder what side of Kmart this person shops from. Have they had their facial hair removed? Have they told people in the workplace whether they're a woman or not? She doesn't do that. She doesn't stop for 1 second to do that. She senses instinctively when she perceives to be a threat. She tightens her fingers around her keys and she speeds up. If a man truly had the psychology of a woman, he would know that and not enter female-only spaces. This proves that the applicant lacks the psychology of a woman, that the applicant is not a woman. Because if you are threatening somebody else, you know, that's based on, you know this, right? Obviously, this is a high-stakes case in Australia, and it will set a precedent for whether or not a woman can. One thing is to have access to single-sex spaces, but also whether or not you can report men who are threatening you. So, yeah, go ahead.
And also, I just want to say, like, so if he went after the CEO for this, let's say he was allowed on the site and then was talking to women and women like, hey, you're not a woman. This person would have just been going after every single person that said, and with the laws that are changing that can put people in jail for misgendering and things like that, this would have been a person on there just attacking anybody they could to try to get money, to try to get people, you know, like, it's insane.
Well, beyond that, just attacking people online. Think about if you report someone who's threatening you as a woman and you say, this man is threatening me in my house, in my workplace, on my devices, and that man can say, actually, I'm not a man. I'm a woman, so you're fine, because it's my right to say that I'm a woman, therefore I'm not threatening you. Think of the implications this has for real women's safety. Now, right now, this case is with the judge and, in my opinion, with God. This is Sal Grover's post about this, and quite honestly, it chokes me up because she says, this is my legal team. I've done my best. Now, you know, we're just going to rest and, you know, the part that she says here, she says, there isn't a woman in the world who'd have taken me to court for this. It takes a man for this case to exist. And I agree with her. Her lawyer, the woman on the left in the blue pantsuit named Catherine Devis Morgan, says between them and all the counsel, they have 17 daughters. She says, we do this for them and all the little girls and women who do not have a voice. Now, here are some women who showed up at this trial this week to talk about it from Australian live streamer Chris Coveries. This is about 2 minutes long. I think these women are worth listening to all the way through.
You call yourself a woman and you're not female, you're a liar.
Hi. Morning. Morning. Looking forward to the day?
I'm from Sale, Victoria. I'm from Townsville, North Queensland.
And I'm from Ballarat in Victoria.
This is not a quick 20-minute drive. Why is this case so important that you've come hours, days to travel? Why is this so important?
Because they're our sex-based rights. Women have lost every single area of single sex, the ability to gather only with women. To declare that you can be a woman simply by cutting off your penis, either cutting off your penis or not, inverting it to make a pretend vagina. Women have vaginas to give birth. It's our birth canal. The public have no clue about how important this is, what their actual women's sex-based rights are being challenged.
This is the constitutional sex versus gender identity case, and it has international implications to a lot of women who have been working really hard to fight this nonsense for years, that this is a giant court case in that respect.
I came this far because, nobody knows it's happening. None of the media, mainstream media, have actually covered it up until this point, apart from Rita Panahi. Go Rita. Yeah. No one else mentioned it until yesterday when it started, so nobody knows it's occurring. People walking past this courthouse don't know it's occurring, and it affects every woman in Australia. And potentially across the world. And for Sal to know that we are here outside the court, spreading the message and just offering support is the most important thing we can do. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks for your time. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, they are absolutely right. The media has ignored this up until this week. Now it is getting some mainstream media coverage in Australia, at least. And it's a really important ruling. I've been following this case by the great publication Redux. That's REDUXX. Is a great place for the sanctity of women's rights and the absurdity of transgender men who claim the access to women's spaces. So this is a case that has been going on for quite a long time. It's traumatic for this woman who just wants to run a women-only social networking app and is taken to court. So It's an important ruling. It will have international implications, whether or not a woman can say, this man is threatening me and I don't participate. There was a similar case in the UK about 5 years ago that launched the whole Myra Forstater case, where a woman was assaulted at a trans activist rally by a trans person who put on his Facebook that he wanted to go F up some TERFs, went there and did exactly that, punched a woman in the face. The woman sued, but she didn't get monetary compensation, even though she was found that the transgender person was guilty of those things. But because she didn't use his preferred pronouns, she didn't get any monetary compensation, and she got lectured by the judge for not using his pronouns. So that was in the UK about 5 years ago. These things are happening to women, and so it deserves our full attention. Let us know what you think of this in the chat below.
Yeah, and also follow J.K. Rowling, because she's just been an absolute beast over the past few days, really taking the Scottish law to task on this.
Well, and especially the Cass report, which I decided not to talk about today because it's dense. It's over 300 pages. That's what I'm going to do this weekend. So we'll be talking about that. Oh, don't you worry. We will talk about that in the coming days of the show.
Oh, boy, it's the largest ever study on transgenderism, over 300 pages, this report. So we covered it in the newsletter today. And we should remind you, we have a free newsletter. We hope you all subscribe to it. It's free, and you can download it first thing in the morning. It'll be delivered right to your inbox, so you don't even have to do anything. You can roll out of bed. You can literally pour coffee in your face and open up your phone, open up your laptop, open up your tablet, and right in your inbox, the Redacted newsletter will be sitting there for you to read over your cup of coffee first thing in the morning. Again, covering about 4 or 5 of the big stories of the day, plus a lot of little nuggets of, in case you missed it, some trending topics, news by the numbers. We try to make it at least a little entertaining to start your day off right. All you need to do is go to redacted.inc is the place to go. Redacted.inc, not .com, and then put in your email address, and then you will receive a welcome email. You have to confirm it, though. So I know people have written us and said, hey, I've signed up, but I don't receive the newsletter. You have to confirm it. Just look for that email. It might be in your spam folder. Gmail has labeled us as dangerous, so it might be in your dangerous folder because we report the truth. Anyway, just go there and click confirm. And then when we publish the newsletter on Monday morning, Monday through Thursday, you will receive it in your inbox. Again, redacted.inc is the place to go.
All right. Thank you for joining us this week, everybody. That ends your live shows of Redacted for the week, but we'll have content for you all across the weekend, and we'll be back on Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everyone.